Hey folks, welcome back to another Poem Masters video, and now that the Datamined has dropped, right, as usual, let's go over some of these, the new sync pairs and see, which ones probably might be better than some others, right? So before I do go into this, I do want to mention that we're definitely getting another data download somewhere, later this month, right? For N, obviously. Not like late this month, but like, in a few weeks probably, right? Not just for N, but maybe some, other stuff potentially later on, because I think the last banner only goes up to like the 12th or something, which, or in terms of new units, right? Which is, that's not too many, right? So we might get a lot more stuff later on. So hold your horses is definitely not everything this month. But so far, let's just go over them and check them out. So this month's units, I would say the disparity is like usually like last month or whatever, right? A lot of, in general, most of the units are great. There are some units that I find aren't that extremely well. The top is very, very strong here, but the bottom a bit shaky, right? But none of them are like objectively bad, unlike, well, last month's Nate. Right? Just like straight up bad, but some of them might have just I guess just like some of them really didn't get any buffs, honestly. With some of these again, new updated EX outfits or whatever grids. So let's get into this. So starting from the top, right? I'd say the overall best unit over here is pretty clear. It's Gloria, right? It's not remotely close. I see a lot of people already sleeping on Gloria a lot, right? Which is completely right. I obviously I don't agree. Gloria is incredibly powerful. People don't realize how much damage this thing does. So I see a lot of people comparing her to Steven, and when you first look at it, it makes sense. Oh, they're both steel type units. Obviously you can compare them. But I personally don't think Steven's a really good comparison at all. They are two completely different strikers, right? I think Gloria it's a much better comparison to compare Gloria to Singsu Red. I think Gloria and Singsu Red are much more similar, right, in terms of playstyle and all that stuff. Obviously there are upsides and downsides to both these, right? Red does overall a bit more damage. Gloria is faster, better defenses, all that stuff, right? Also has two coverages, two different type coverages. Red has both physical special, all that stuff. Red does need Sun to set up, right? Gloria on the other hand needs the opponent to sync. So in terms of team comp, it's much easier to build around Gloria a bit, maybe. Red has all the self buffs, Gloria doesn't. But yeah, these two, despite their differences, these two are much more similar in comparison to Steven, right? Steven, I do think is a much different sync pair than Gloria is. Steven I find more comparable to say Cynthia instead. I think those two are much similar, right? Gloria you can maybe also compare to Lance a bit, maybe. Although she's almost in every way except for healing better than Lance, unfortunately, for Lance. But yeah, she's incredibly powerful. Gloria, obviously her damage is through the roofs, right? On top of her already incredible damage, right? The Behemoth Blade also gets another 1.5 times boost after the opponent sinks, which makes it even more powerful, right? And then the sync move is double, so she basically has a built-in inertia or haymaker or whatever, without having to raise your stats, right? All you need is the opponent to sync, which you should get before your second sync, right? So unless you skip turns, skip turns countdown, all that stuff. Her grid is terrible though. Her grid is definitely bad. There are some good stuff on it, the two Behemoth Blade move gauge refreshes on top of her 394 speed, almost 400 speed, and then on top of having move gauge boost, on top of having move gauge refresh 4 on her passive. The really scary and very lethal thing about Gloria and Zacian or Zacian, is that you can easily run double striker with her on it. You could easily run double striker with her, right? You could run her. You could probably even run like another 4 gauge, striker. That's relatively fast. Like you could run her and Red on the same team, or her and I guess another one would be Alder, right? You could run those on the same team and it will be incredibly powerful. Or what else you could do is, if it's a Seal Week stage, you can run her and Steven Metagross on the same team. If you run those two on the same team with like a sport like Singsu Blue with MPR on the trainer move or whatever, right? Or something like a Dusclops, or if Dusclops, gets a grid later this month or whatever, that could be absolutely a devastating team, right? Because her and Steven, right? You get a double Steel Striker type skill buff, which is insanely powerful, right? Which is insanely powerful. And then that plus the steel gear, that gives both Steven and Gloria almost 100 points extra in attack. So that, attack could go up to like, assuming 0 out of 20, right? Go up to 490, almost 500 attack, right? If you pick up like, 2 more attack nodes, that's 500 attack. That's 500 attack on this thing. And again, you're getting 2 strikers, double striker, very sustainable, right? Especially with the Gloria's speed. Gloria's, in my opinion, the biggest highlight on her overalls is her speed and obviously insane damage. So that's very, very nice. So, yeah, anyways, Gloria, in my opinion, is definitely, easily the best one of this batch, right? All right, moving on. So the second best, I think it's Brendan. I do think it's Brendan here. Brendan got a really, really nice buff, in my opinion, right? Although there are some things that he didn't get either, which, is kind of sad. Like, he didn't get no quarter on Bullet Seed, which would have been nice if he got no quarter on Bullet Seed. But it's not the biggest deal in the world, because Brendan's Leaf Storm is about to be incredibly powerful, right? You got, like, Ramming Speed, which is nice. You got Charging Sun 5. Like, that's an extra, 80% if you could get both of these up, right? On top of that, you have Inertia. You got actually Brainy Rush is actually a really, really great option if you don't have Dauntless on your Sceptile, right? It really is a good option, honestly. On top of that, it's just like a really, really great overall. I mean, it was a great unit even before, right? Obviously, since it didn't have a grid, it had a lot of big downsides, right? No MPR, no MGR, all that stuff, right? But now it's just, it's just really, really great. Also, the accuracy on Leaf Storm is also nice. The only slight issue, right, is that it's hard to run him with Lyra sometimes if you're picking up stuff like Inertia or Brainy Rush 6. If you don't have Dauntless, right? So you kind of have to run him with Blaine. Again, if you're if you're going for both Inertia and Brainy Rush 6 without Dauntless, right? With Dauntless, you obviously don't have to worry about Brainy Rush 6. Although Critical Strike 2 is also really, really, it's a real option for, Sceptile as well, if you don't have any, what cookies are called, the blue ones, right? So overall, great upgrade, overall, right? Unfortunately, didn't get Mega Sceptile, but, oh well. Maybe it'll be some, feature added in the future or whatever, right? So moving on. Next on the list, I'd say, is Erika. Erika reminds me a lot of Misty, right? Erika reminds me a lot of Misty. So what Erika really does, like the X regen thing, obviously, Misty's only for one sync pair, and Comfy is for the whole team, right? For the regen. Misty also gives evasion, though, but, evasion is the most probable thing in the world. What I do like about Misty over Comfy is Misty does have that X special defense all, which is really, really nice. Comfy does have it, sorta, but only for herself with Tighten Up 4, which, on the bright side, you don't have to, waste any MP on it, right, which is nice. But it's much slower, and obviously it doesn't cover your whole team. But what Comfy does have, which I do like over Misty, is, first of all, Healing Hand, you could potentially pick up Healing Hand 4, which is insanely good, right? Healing Hand 4 is fantastic. On top of that, you also got stuff like Draining Kiss on like, and this is like sort of like a unit that I've been waiting for a long time. I was just waiting for like a unit that has like 2 gauge, that's a good tank that has a 2 gauge move that regens, right, and on top of that also heals, and that's basically Coffee, right? On top of that, as well, Coffee also has an AoE potion, and I think this part of layup is slightly underrated. Returns lowered stats to all sync pairs than normal. This actually happens much more often than not, right? Especially in a lot of legendary arenas. A lot of legendary arena opponents have like moves like bulldoze, or some AoE moves to lower your stats. But even outside of that, there's a lot of passives that the legendary arena or have, like stuff like defense crush 9 on their moves that do lower your obviously your whole team's stats, right, all that stuff, which are honestly quite problematic, right? So this definitely helps there a lot. And unlike a lot of like moves that kind of heal or whatever and do other stuff, this is a perfectly structured one, because you don't want to heal too early in the game, right? Because you early in the game you generally do have a lot of HP left. What you really want to use this when it's much more later in the game. And unlike, I guess a good example would be Sabrina's Sixth Sense, right? Sometimes when you're using Sixth Sense, you are in some situations, if you're using it too early, you're slightly wasting the heal, right? This one, it doesn't do that at all. It's much later in the game when you want to return your lowered stats to normal, right? And then by that time, it'd be a great opportunity to heal your sync pairs as well. And then also, well, I guess the raised defense, that part isn't, right? But that's a great, that's good extra. Unfortunately, it only has 1 MP. Would have been nice if it had like 2, but that would also kind of be overpowered. So it's basically 3 potions that heals, that heals more than Dawn's like full restore, right? On top of that, just really great defensive stats as well. I think this is a fantastic unit. So, moving on. Next on the list, I want to say it's Jasmine EX. Jasmine EX, on top of, looking absolutely beautiful. I love the CX outfit, by the way. Jasmine EX does bring a lot of great things. I was deciding between Jasmine EX and Dawn, but I do think Jasmine takes this one, because Jasmine gets a lot of great things from the EX, right? So, not only are you getting recuperation, right? You heal on your sync, on top of, again, giving all those stat buffs. You get Mega, right? And Mega Steelix, look at those defenses, right? Mega Steelix is just a huge defensive, stat jump. And, for that alone, a lot of people, like even before, EX Jasmine, people use that a lot. So I do think Steelix benefits quite a bit from this. I do think, like, if we take away the EX outfits, I do think Dawn is overall better, because Steelix is a bit more niche, right? But I do think this EX outfit helps make Steven not as niche as before. Maybe, again, if you want to say EX Dawn is better, you could say that, right? I wouldn't argue too much against it. But just in my opinion, I do think Steelix got slightly better. You also got stuff like Rejuvenate 6, right? Which, again, could also add on to it, especially with the Steelix relatively slow speed, right? That's pretty embarrassing, the speed. So, yeah, there's that, I guess. So, moving on. Next one, like I mentioned before, spoiler alert, Dawn. So, here's the thing with Dawn, right? Dawn doesn't really get too much from the 6-star EX, right? Obviously, you do have the big, pecking order over here, but I'm not a huge fan of pecking order, because you have to, like, lower the opponent's attack, which is, relatively hard to get to at -6 before the opponent even gets taken out. It's much better if you're doing Legendary Arena, right? But not so much if you're, fighting multiple layers of opponents. Obviously, she does that herself on her passive, but, that's only -3 per sync move cycle, right? Again, not really easy to get to -6 to max that out, again, unless you're fighting Legendary Arena. But as a base unit, I do think she's overall better than Steelix. But again, I do think Steelix just benefits so much from that 6 REX overall, right? So yeah, she's still fantastic. Healthy healing. She can do good damage, right? You know, defenses, physical defenses, great. Yeah, she's just an overall, just a fantastic tank, all around, right? So, moving on, and this might be a bit controversial, maybe, because I do think people are slightly overrating the Skyla a bit. And I'm not saying she's bad. She's great. She's great, right? I just don't think she's as good as a lot of people say she is. She has some very, very great stuff here, right? So you got Rising Tide up there, alongside with Flinch Hitter. That's going to be a massive sync move, right? That's going to be a very, very massive sync move. Here's my slight problem with it. It's a bit hard to pull off, right? It is a bit hard to pull off, and she does try to like do too many stuff at once, which is sometimes going to be slightly difficult in terms of choosing a move in terms of your what you're gaining or losing, right, from that, which is could be slightly problematic. And I do think her base kit is kind of, I don't know, it's not anything amazing. Right? Nothing in her stats really stand out. I guess she has good special defense, but outside of that, nothing really stands out there too much. Special attack's not terrible, right? And then on top of that, it's just like, it's an air/flincher or tri-attack statuser with your passive, and the chances aren't like high for either of them. It really isn't, right? Like if you compare that to something like a regular Acerola, or even like Lycia without AoE, it's not even AoE, it's just single target, right? Yeah, she's a great sync nuke, right? Which is fine, but again, sync nukes are generally limited, especially with the 6 REX. You get an extra 1.5 times on top of that, but it is slightly limited. It's obviously very, very powerful in legendary arenas. Obviously not so much elsewhere, right? I'm not saying it's bad, it's just not as great. She can also do some good damage on tri-attack. It's just a bit too hard to like pick up everything that you want on her grid and make it really be that useful, right? Foul Fighting 5, these are all fantastic stuff. And again, I don't think she's bad. I think she's terrific. I just don't think she's that great. Anyways, moving on, last one. This is easily the weakest one out of all of these. Iris has some upsides, right? Iris definitely has some really, really great upsides, especially for Balbilla. However, I do think her usefulness slightly took a step back, because Balbilla, we don't just always have it anymore, right? It's less common. It's not as relevant as a game mode as it used to be. It's like significantly less relevant. Then obviously the big thing over here we're pointing to is Carry On, right? So you don't have to spend MP to get attack buffs, all that stuff. She still does solid damage on Outrage with where is it, Confusion Boon 5, right? Here's the thing about her 6 REX outfit. Her 6 REX outfit is bad. It's straight up, okay, I mean, I'm not talking about how it looks. If you like how it looks, that's fine. It's actively hurting her. It's actively hurting her. Because, well, first of all, like, you're not gaining anything much from it, right? Because it's not like Confusion Boon activates on your, sync move, right? You really don't get anything off it. You don't even get, like, 4, sync move power-up nodes. And like, obviously no multipliers for a sync move. And on top of that, if you use your sync move to take out your opponents, if you take out the sides with your sync move, Carry On doesn't activate, which is, also an issue with the Luzamine, right? Obviously, Luzamine is much more powerful overall as a unit, but that's definitely an issue, right? If you AoE sync move your opponent, that means you're losing out on your Carry On, which is honestly the big bright spot on Hextress's unit as a whole, right? So that is slightly unfortunate. That really is unfortunate. So yeah, it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, again, yeah, just my take. If you disagree, that's whatever. Fine, I guess. But yeah, I do think people are quite underrating Gloria a bit, right? And I don't think Skyla's as good as people think she is going to be. Again, she's going to be a fantastic sync nuker. That's no denying that, right? I just don't think it's as valuable. I could definitely see some of these spots shifting depending on, whoops, what happened? Depending on your take, right? I could see people like ranking Skyla higher. I could see people putting Dawn above Jasmine, right? But I don't really see any other changes, right? I definitely don't see anyone, putting anyone over Gloria, right? Or putting anyone under Iris. So yeah. Anyways, that's maybe this one. I guess I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Oh, by the way, as you can see behind me, maybe, got a lot of Pokemon cards that we're gonna open. Probably gonna, you know what? I'll upload part 1 of the booster box opening later today. So stay tuned for that. That should be fun. Also got 2 Rebel Clash Elite Trainer boxes. I might unbox with my brother, do a bit of a box battle there. Got some more stuff. Got a VMAX Meowth box, Toxtricity V, Poltergeist V. A lot of fun stuff coming up. So make sure to subscribe to all that stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys later today then.